sober drag queen Candi Wantsome, aka Ben Hippensteel, coming to you live from the house of Wantsome right here in Findlay, Ohio. I wanted to say thank you to OCPRS for having me down this week to the to the Opiate and Other Drug Conference there in Columbus at the Convention Center. I was invited to do a breakout session, and it was a great experience for me as a professional and as I almost said young person, but yeah, I guess as a young person who was finding my way in the recovery industry, it was really great to be asked and fulfill, and it was a great experience. So we had lots of great questions, we had a full room. I was actually asked to do a session about what it was like being an LGBT person, a gay man, going through agencies, rehab, therapy, and now what it's like working in the industry and how I can support my LGBT community as a professional. So I kind of talked about stereotype, I talked about stigma, I talked about, not judging a book by its cover when somebody's struggling, meeting people where they are at when it comes to their recovery and maybe their identity or their gender. So it was a really good session. We had to get extra chairs twice. Yay! So we had about 55 people in the room. We had some great questions. The stereotype part was awesome. I had a lot of great giggles, and some of you actually left your cards behind. So we're gonna read those in part 2 of this video. I filmed Candi Wantsome, especially for the conference, to kind of explain a little bit about where people in the LGBT community go to find their community, and actually how I use Candi today, like this video, to share positive words of encouragement about recovery and life, and to be honest about the struggles that I have as a recovering alcoholic, and how hard it is in smaller, rural, conservative areas to kind of find yourself and be yourself and keep your recovery intact. So I wanted to show you the video that I actually made especially for the conference, where I actually had Candi Wantsome via satellite on the screen, where she actually talked about kind of growing up as a gay man and where I went to find my community, which was usually at the gay bar or the gay club, and what it was like to go through recovery. And I actually also spoke about what it's like to be Candi Wantsome today and how I use my medium and drag and this platform to help other LGBT people in recovery. So this video that I'm about to show you is actually what I taped. This is part 1 of the recovery conference, or the opiate conference follow-up. So enjoy this part, and then we'll talk in the second half, and we'll get your reactions and all that good stuff. So I'm Candi Wantsome, I'll talk to you later. Bye! Hey everybody, it's me, your super sober drag queen, Candi Wantsome, aka Ben Hippensteel, coming to you live from the house of Wantsome right here in Findlay, Ohio. So, hello Columbus! I'm so excited to see all of you. You look beautiful. I hope you've been enjoying the session so far. So I just wanted to share an example of kind of where my drag has taken me. So Ben has described what drag looked like before, and what it was like as an LGBT person going through all of the agencies and the rehabs and the therapies and all of that stuff that we went through to get to where we are today. So, like he said, as a gay person, when you actually are first coming out and trying to find who you are, you actually have to go out and find your community, especially when you live in a small town like I did. So when I would go and find my community, I went to a gay bar. That career grew and it turned into what it was. And then as a sober person, it was very hard to get back to what I used to do because drag happens in bars. It just does. So for me, as a gay person, as a drag queen, I had to learn how to do drag without drinking. The amazing thing, the big change that Focus did for me, and Focus Recovery and Wellness Community is where I work today, and this was before I worked there, obviously, but Ellen, she actually met me years ago, and I remember I was in the rec room, and I was designing a tattoo, because I wanted a tattoo at the time, and she started asking questions, and I talked about my old days in drag, and she was like, do you want to do it again? And I said, I don't know how. I was like, I'm scared to go back because it just involves drinking. And she was like, well, let me make a call. And so I actually got involved with Findlay University, or the University of Findlay, excuse me, and their show, which is a sober campus. So in the grand scheme of things, is what was happening was Focus and Ellen were pushing me towards what I loved, my creativity, the drag, the entertainment, this whole thing that I had completely had to alienate. And if I alienated it forever, I would have started drinking again because my depression would have came back, my anxiety would have came back, and it would have been a shitstorm, and I would have fallen apart, and everything would have crashed and burned again. I guarantee you that. Because this, what you're looking at right now, I love to create this fantasy. I love to entertain, and using the skills that I have today to share my story of sobriety and recovery in such a different way, to use this platform to help people, especially those in recovery in the LGBTQ plus community, to me makes such a difference, because I know what the struggle is. Because for me, being that person who created my family within a bar, a club, I chose my family, and then to have to learn then to alienate it because I had to get sober, me figuring out how to rejoin my community as a sober person and to be able to be a part of my culture again was a huge part of my journey, and it was tough. And so now I can help people get to where I am today. So I share my videos online. I talk about my journey. I talk about rehab. I talk about, how God works his way through my life, my higher power, and the universe. And I get to participate in things in Findlay, and I am who I am unapologetically. This is it. This is who I am. If I'm a gay guy living in a conservative town and I like to put on a dress, so be it. Because if I am not myself to the core, it's all gonna fall apart. And I won't have that, especially when you're this good looking. So some of the cool things I get to do as a sober drag queen is I get to do events like this, and I get to share something different with all of you. I actually get to do recovery shows. We actually did a recovery show here in Findlay called Drag City USA, where we actually did the show, and I actually shared my journey of recovery in between each performance. It was an amazing experience for me because I actually got to kind of take that, what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now, and intersplice it in this amazing drag performance with other queens. And the cool thing about it is some of my drag family was there as well, so I actually was able to pull them into the conversation when I would say, this is what Taj Mahal did for me when I was really struggling, because she was there. There was that experience, and people actually went up to them afterwards and like, did that really happen? And they were like, yeah, that was part of the journey. So I get to do things like that. I've been involved with a great organization out of Cincinnati called GLASS, Gays and Lesbians Achieving Sobriety Together. They do a great show in Newport, Kentucky at Promises, an AA club called Queens for Recovery. It's going to be in its third year. We've done 2 years thus far, and I get to go down and I get to share a little bit about my story. I share goofy stories about anything and everything when it comes to recovery, and I am blatantly honest as a drag queen. If you've ever been to a drag show, we're pretty heavy on the sexual innuendo and the pun and the campiness and the fun, so I just take my recovery journey and I pour that into it. So, when I talk about, in one of my videos and on stage, when I talk about my relationship with my higher power and discovering who God was for me in my life, I say, God sent me dick pics. That's what I believed in. And as a drag queen, that's what I talk about on stage. There's also another conversation that I talk about God's timeline. And that involves a trip to the Dollar Tree. And if you want to know about that, you can talk to me after this session. But for me and my community, the LGBT community, it's relatable. Because growing up in the gay bar, like many of us do, there's drag queens in your life, there's dancers in your life, there's drag kings, there's entertainers, there's bartenders. So I can connect with people because you know, I'm just as funny and funky and punny and innuendo-y as I am when I was drinking as I am when I'm sober. Because I'm gonna say the shit that I said on stage before, but I'm gonna say it with a new message. And my message is that recovery is possible. And especially in our community, in the LGBTQ plus community, we need to come together, we need to support each other. Just because this group wants to drink and this group doesn't mean we have to stay separate. It doesn't mean we can't get together and be happy and love each other and support each other. So I'm gonna throw it back to Ben, and I appreciate all of what you guys are doing today, and I hope you learned something from me and Ben. So I'll talk to you later and see you at the conference. Bye.